Hello! Today I thought I would talk about some of the best and worst books of 2021 so far. So this is going to be the mid-year book freakout tag, and yeah, we're just going to discuss some favorites, some non-favorites, some new favorites, things of that nature. So this is just going to encompass all of the books I've read in the first 6 months of the year, so none of the books that I finished in July this far, because I am filming this a little bit late. It's about halfway into the month. And I've read 3 books in July, so we're just going to count every book besides those 3. So I guess without further ado, let's get into the questions. So the first question is, what is the best book you've read this year so far? And I have to say that there isn't a book that really stands out to me as the #1 best book I've read all year. I've read several 5 stars, books that I really enjoyed, but nothing that just sticks out in my mind as, oh my goodness, I love this so much. So I picked a couple books that could kind of fit that. Like, they're really good. I really love them. But like I said, I don't really have an absolute to die for favorite. One of the books I would say is something I really enjoyed would be Beach Read by Emily Henry. This is a book about an author who goes to live in this beach house that her father has left her. You know, she's working through secrets, left behind. She decides to spend her summer there working on her next novel and working through some family issues, family secrets that she has recently become aware of. It's a romance novel involving her and her enemy, who is also an author. So it's a great enemies to lovers story. That's not my favorite trope, but I really enjoyed that book. You know, you think it's just going to be a cute summer read. The title says so. It's a romance read. But this book goes so much deeper than simple surface level, cutesy, fluffy romance. It's quite hard-hitting, but it also has those fun, fluffy elements, just not as prominent as you would think or as consistent as you would think. The other book I would say that would be one of my favorites could be A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Yes, I know this book came out so long ago, but I just read it for the first time this year and I absolutely loved it. I fell in love with the world, the characters, everything. If you don't know what ACOTAR is about, it's basically about this girl, this human girl, Feyre, kills a wolf, and that series of events leads her to a situation where she has to live in the fairy world with this fae man, Tamlin. And it's about her adventures living with Tamlin and living in the fairy realm as a human. I'm sure you know what this is about, but I don't want to say more than that because I don't want to spoil it. So, yes. Those would be some of the best books that I've read this year. Question number 2 is, what is the best sequel that you've read this year? And I'm going to have to give that to A Court of Mist and Fury, which is the sequel to A Court of Thorns and Roses, which I just explained to you. The story really takes a turn in this novel, and I loved every single second of it. I loved the characterizations, the further world building, the development of Feyre's character. I loved every single second of it. I think this is probably the best sequel that I've ever read, and I'm sure a lot of people, it seems to be a common consensus in the book community that ACOMAF is one of the best sequels people have ever read. So yes, that is going to have to be my answer for this question. Question number 3 is, what is a new release that you haven't read yet? And that is going to have to go to The Box in the Woods by Maureen Johnson, which is the 4th book in the Truly Devious series. However, it's not a direct continuation of the story from the first 3 novels. It just follows the same characters, I believe. So Truly Devious is basically a story, mystery story about this girl named Stevie who goes to this academy that has a lot of mystery surrounding it, like the disappearance of the founder's wife and daughter. So it's basically like dual timelines. Then in current day, when there's another mystery going on, you know, Stevie, our main character, obsessed with true crime and solving mysteries, things like that. She works on both mysteries, basically, while she is a student there. I absolutely loved the first 3 books. I think I gave them all 5 stars. I'm super excited to read The Box in the Woods. I don't know why I haven't gotten to it yet, but it will be one of the next books I read, hopefully. Question number 4 is, what is the most anticipated release for the second half of the year? And I'm going to give this to The Hawthorn Effect by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the sequel to the Inheritance games. I read this at the end of last year and I absolutely loved it. I would say it has the same vibes as the Truly Devious series. It's a little different. It involves more of games and stuff like that, but it has that strong mystery aspect. I absolutely loved it and I really want more from that world. So basically the Inheritance games is about this girl, Avery, who inherits this fortune from this man that she has never met. She has no idea who he is, and that takes her to his estate basically, where she meets his 3 grandchildren. I believe it's 3. It's very strong Knives Out vibes. You know, it involves a lot of games like puzzles and stuff, mystery. The strong mystery element is there. But yeah, it's basically just her trying to understand why this man left this fortune to her. And you know, it's going to be drama with the family who didn't really get anything in the will, but this random girl who none of them knew existed got their grandfather's entire inheritance basically. So I'm super excited to see where the sequel takes that story, because there were several questions at the end of the first one that I would love answered. Question number 5 is the biggest disappointment this year. I don't know that I was super disappointed in a lot of the reads that I've read thus far this year, but there was one mystery thriller story that had a lot of potential and just didn't quite do anything for me, which was The Guest List. This book is basically about this couple who has a wedding on this remote island basically, and you know, your typical thriller mystery plot follows a bunch of characters trying to figure out what's happening. I felt this had literally no plot whatsoever. Nothing exciting happened, nothing that you were kind of guessing at things that was going on with the characters throughout the story, but there wasn't this big reveal, there wasn't this big dramatic death. Like, those things might have been in there, but they weren't huge, dramatic. And honestly, at this point, I've forgotten most of what even happened in the story. I've since unhauled it because I didn't enjoy it that much, but I just feel like that remote island plot line in thrillers, it's a common plot, but I feel like it could have been done a lot better in this novel, and it was just disappointing. Question number 6 is, what is the biggest surprise? And I'm going to give that one to An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. This book has been on my radar for a while, but I had no idea what it was actually about. I was just interested in it because a lot of people were enjoying it and it's Hank Green, so I just wanted to see what this was all about. But my friend read this and the sequel and she really enjoyed them, so she recommended them to me and she sent me this book actually. So I read it and I loved it. This book basically is about this girl, April May, discovers this statue in the middle of New York. And she's basically the first one to discover this statue, which the same statue has popped up in cities all over the world. That leads her to some internet fame, and she just gets a lot of media attention, and it deals with her dealing with all of that media attention and the Carls, which is what the statues, she names them basically. There's a lot of mystery aspects in this, a lot of cool sci-fi elements. There's a lot of commentary on social media and media influence, just things like that, and I thought it was done very well. You can definitely tell Hank Green wrote this, someone like Hank Green at least wrote this, because that commentary on the media and social media is very present and is very much written from the perspective of someone who is prominent or who has experienced prominence in social media and the media. But I really enjoyed every single aspect of this. I think my favorite part was the mystery, the sci-fi aspect. There's almost like a game type element to this that I really, really enjoyed and wanted to read more of that. I haven't yet picked up the sequel, and that's something that I'm eager to do soon, especially now that it's on paperback to match this copy. So hopefully I will get to that soon, because this was one of the more surprising books that I've read. I didn't know I would enjoy it this much. Question number 7 is a new favorite author, and I don't think I've read too many new authors. I think this year I've focused a lot on rereading or finishing up series or reading more from authors that I already knew I loved. But I've only read one book from this author, but I know I'm going to enjoy anything that she writes, and I'm super eager to pick up her most recent novel, and that is Emily Henry, who wrote Beach Read and has written People We Meet on Vacation, which is the book I'm super eager to pick up because it has one of my favorite tropes ever, which is friends to lovers, and I've heard amazing things about this book. And I know I've only read one book from this author, I believe, but I just know at this point I believe she's going to be one of my favorite authors just because of how much I loved Beach Read and how eager I am to read People We Meet on Vacation. Questions 8 and 9 have to do with new favorite characters. 8 is newest fictional crush, and I don't really think I have a new fictional crush. Yeah, no. Question number 9 is newest favorite character, and I think I'm going to have to give that one to Feyre Archeron from A Court of Thorns and Roses. I just absolutely loved Feyre's development in this book and in Akamath and Akawar. Sarah J. Maas does very well writing characters dealing with trauma and overcoming things, and just writes characters very well, develops them very well, and I love Feyre so much. She's just such a strong female character, which, I mean, there's several of those, but I just felt so much for her, and seeing what she endured in ACOTAR just made me love her even more, like made me feel for her even more. So yes, Feyre is definitely one of my favorite characters. Question number 10 is a book that made you cry, and I'm trying not to do too many repeats, but I could give this one to Beach Read because that one definitely made me cry, or I could give that one to Chain of Iron. This book killed me. Somehow I think I ended up spoiling myself for what happens at the very end of this, and I just did not want to read it anymore because I did not want to read that scene happening. It killed me, and I am so eager to read the finale of this trilogy. No spoilers at all, but this book was pure pain. Pure pain. So this book definitely made me cry. If you don't know, Chain of Iron is the sequel to Chain of Gold, which is the sequel series to The Infernal Devices, which is 1800s shadow hunters in London. I'm sure you know what The Infernal Devices is about. I'm sure you know what Chain of Gold and Chain of Iron are about. But this book definitely made me cry. The next question is a book that made you happy. And I don't know that I've read a lot of books that made me happy exactly this year, but this book could answer book that made you cry and book that made you happy, because it had its moments where I was crying, but it also, the story just made me so happy seeing these characters again. That is what made me happy reading this, and that is Rule of Wolves by Leigh Bardugo. This is the sequel to King of Scars, which is the third series written in the Grishaverse. King of Scars follows Nikolai, and I don't really want to say much more about that because I don't want to spoil Shadow and Bone or Six of Crows, but I loved this book so much just because I loved seeing these characters that I've come to love. Reading 6 books from them, just seeing how their stories wrapped up, kind of. Like, this could be an ending. I can see how she can continue this even more, but the ending of this just made me so happy. The next question is the most beautiful book you've bought this year, and I know I said I didn't want to repeat books. However, this book, Rule of Wolves, is the most gorgeous book I've bought this year. I didn't expect it to look so pretty because I think when I saw the cover for this online, I thought King of Scars was gonna look nicer than this one, but in person, this one is just so beautiful. The cover feels so nice, even though it's just a dust jacket. I love it so much, and even under the dust jacket looks beautiful. So yes, that is the most beautiful book I bought this year. And the final question is, what book do you need to read by the end of the year? For this one, I'm going to give it to Witch Shadow, which is the latest book in the Witchland series. I'm reading the Witchlands along with J.D. Ray Reads, who is doing the Witchlands Along, and that is the book we are currently up to, which was just released, and it's one I'm super eager to get to. I don't have it yet. I need to get my hands on a copy soon, but I'm super eager to see where the series continues and how the plot develops. If you don't know, This is the 4th book in the Witchland series. The first book, Truth Witch, follows Safi, who is a truth witch, and her best friend Azul. And basically they are on the run, kind of, or just trying to keep Safi's truth witchery a secret because she doesn't want to be used by people for political gain, or just used by people in general. And it really just follows Safi, Azul, and a cast of characters on adventures across the Witchlands. So I've been really enjoying the Witchlands along. I think this one has potential to be my favorite book in the series thus far. So there you have it. That is all of the questions and the mid-year book freakout tag. I am super eager to see what the second half of 2021 brings me, because I've read some really good books so far this year. Things that I've enjoyed a lot. But yeah, I think that is everything I have today. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you soon.